me just
Ooh,
put this onto...
that was quite a sniffle, but you aren't kidding. You got something.
Don't have children or be around children or have a nephew who is 3. I don't know what else to tell you.
I mean, I got that first one well under control.
Yeah, I have been, yes, this is the start of the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Somehow You Didn't Die on Your Way to Work, a mildly serious podcast about public-ish transit safety with Joe Zeta and Zach Lybrand. I have been poisoned by a 3-year-old, and I am Joe Zeta. Zach, did you write this by hand?
I did.
Your handwriting is so much better than mine.
And that was me being sloppy. This was right after I got the tablet and I didn't really have a feel for it yet, but I wanted to see if I could do that. I can, but it's a pain in the ass. Google Slides does not like for me to write on slides, so I had to put this in an image editor and kind of force it to work.
I'm impressed either way. There's a reason why I don't write things.
I got tired of people bitching about my handwriting when I try to write stuff up on a train and they go, well, we couldn't fix it because we couldn't read what it said.
Yeah, Zach, they'd say that if you wrote that with a typewriter.
That might be true. Or I could really mess them up and write in cursive.
No, you got to get like a portable word processor from the 80s and just shove all your train order things through it. And just be like, if you can't read this shit, I don't know what to tell you. Drag a teletype machine into the gen set.
So for at least the first couple of slides, you're going to have to let me know when you switch over.
Okay.
Past that, I don't think I'll need it. I'll be telling you when to switch.
Okay. So we are still on the first slide.
Okay.
Is there anything that we need to cover before we go on to the next one?
No, just brace for impact.
Okay, next slide. Ow.
That what you see is a very, very broken, very smashed Bud RDC. If you haven't figured it out by the fact that it's a rail car on another rail car, it's not supposed to be like that.
Well, it is because this is a disaster podcast. If things went well...
in our context, yes.
I was also under the impression that Bud don't break, so this is very serious for this to have happened.
Well, I think outside intervention doesn't count towards Bud don't break. So before we get too far, I do want to thank one of our listeners. Matthew suggested this topic, and it was hard to find information on. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but it's a really interesting story that I think I had fun writing up.
It properly nerd sniped Zach. He made this entire thing. Please, I know that many of you have sent us in suggestions. This is not to say that we will fall on it immediately like this one we did. This one was very much like a fluke because I was busy for a weekend or two. And so we had extra time, and then we fell down a research hole, and it started making me mad.
And I'm also a sucker for anything with Bud RDCs. So to see a failure like this, and as we'll talk about at What Did We Learn, in the What Did We Learn section.
Fucking nothing.
I mean, kind of. Just, I'll let y'all know when, but if you drink, you're going to want to get a stiff drink ready for that section.
Yep. So now
that's all I got.
Now we're going on to the news slide, which, damn it, I didn't put transitions in. I was in too much of a hurry making them. But, oh well.
They should all have transitions.
Oh, great. So yeah, here's our news brief. Fuck me, look at this gas price. Anyways, that's the news brief. On to the news long. So
y'all know why it's expensive. We don't need to go over that. It's so stupid and frustrating.
That's so fucking annoying. I have the image here, but the video is over it. What the... God fucking damn it. It's not like that on my phone. No, it's not like that on my phone of this. That's so annoying. But anyways, in case you didn't know, please, in a sad tone, say it with me. Ding dong, the witch is dead. Spirit Airlines is officially out of business. This is a late-breaking news story. We are recording this on the 2nd of May, 2025. Earlier this morning, at just past midnight Central Time, Spirit Airlines Flight 1833, flying from Detroit, Michigan to Dallas Fort Worth, became the last Spirit Airlines flight in the air for about 45 seconds as it followed in
Hmm.
two other flights to DFW before the airline just sort of shut down. And I'm going to have to
And
edit in
it,
an image or something so you can see the image that I'm trying to show you because it's funny.
it's worth it. It's
But
yeah, it'll be worth it to edit it in.
but
But
the video
the
is
company itself has been dead for 12 and a half hours now as of recording.
yeah. Yeah,
It
it
was
really just sort of happened all at once because so for those who don't keep up with the airline industry, basically what happened was that Spirit had not been doing well since COVID. So obviously, that was a bad time for a lot of airlines, but Spirit, because it's a low cost carrier, it never had a really thick cash reserve. Like nobody's getting a Spirit
it
Airlines
never
credit
pulled
card.
out of the slump.
Yeah, nobody's getting a Spirit Airlines credit card the same way they would a United Airlines or Delta makes like three quarters of its revenue off of its American Express deals. So like or something insane like that. I don't have an exact figure, but Spirit never did anything like they had credit cards, but what are you going to do? Buy one of those? And so they never had a thick cash reserve. They burned through it during COVID, as did everybody else, but they never really built it back up because, Spirit had a reputation as being a cheap and
Cheaper than
cheap and
dirt.
yeah, cheap and cheerless airline. The flight might cost $7, but once you're actually on the plane, it'll probably cost you 150 minimum between bag fees, uh
Water. Do you want water? They charge you for water.
bag fees, concessions on board the aircraft, various, gotcha fees to try and get you to like get premium boarding and stuff like that. Famously, you had to pay for anything that wasn't a personal item, which was basically, do you have a Ziploc baggie that might be big enough to fit on the airplane for free? Anything else would be paid for. So it really did not engender itself to the flying public. I can say with a small amount of pride that I never hated myself enough to fly Spirit. I did several times fall victim to Frontier, which Spirit has made fun of in one of its last ever like Instagram posts was, everybody's Frontier Airlines story starts with the one time I flew Frontier. But uh basically Spirit Spirit was not a good airline in terms of customer service. And then, you've got to imagine the people who fly Spirit are the ones who don't know how to act right in public, especially post COVID. So,
Oh yeah.
Fight Club in the Sky is basically sort of
RIP to all those reels of people fighting on yellow airplanes.
yes. Um Spirit, it's honestly it's kind of a mixed bag. Like I want to shit on them because they were such an objectively terrible airline, but Spirit had great branding. Spirit had a phenomenal safety record. The airline was started in the early 80s, and despite a variety of different format changes, they went to becoming an LCC, a ULCC in like
What's a
2006.
ULCC?
Ultra low cost carrier. They're basically following
Okay.
the Ryanair model of like
Okay. Yeah.
nothing
Yeah,
is
yeah.
free, you pay to exist basically. Um they popularized this in the United States, but they never had an accident. The only time I think somebody died was in 2018. There was a fume event on board one of their jets, which is its own nightmare scenario that we will not be discussing right now. But one of its pilots actually died after inhaling toxic fumes that leaked into the cabin from the engines. Uh,
Should have paid extra for the drop down mask.
he one of the only people to get paid by the airline to be there. But no, that was we might at some future point if we get an aviation expert on talk about fume events and airliners. They're their own special bundle of nightmares that I really don't want to talk about right now. Um but basically they had a really good shop in back and just the front of house was terrible. So no, mixed bag, thousands of people are going to be out of work right now. But, this is all actually happening because our most pro-business president, did not bail them out, because that would be socialism. They did, almost float the idea of nationalizing Spirit Airlines, which would be the
I would have loved to have seen a nationalized airline develop under the Trump administration and
and
just
its Spirit.
watch everybody's minds melt.
A nationalized airline and its Spirit is the most American thing I could think of. Um
Yeah, I think I I find it very frustrating, but a great example of hubris that Spirit even got to this point, considering that they wanted to merge with
well,
what
it's
was it,
actually
Allegiant?
no, it's JetBlue. JetBlue and Allegiant wanted to merge, which actually would have been for everything, which would have been bad from a competitiveness standpoint, but from a business standpoint, it would have made a hell of a lot of sense. Spirit has an all Airbus fleet, had an all Airbus fleet. Um, JetBlue did as well. They operated in markets that weren't entirely similar. Spirit did a lot of flying from Nowheresville to you know from Nowheresville to Myrtle Beach or something like that. Or most all their flights were to places where you drink in the sun for 7 days and then you fly home. And so it was honestly not a terrible idea. It just sort of got stopped for a variety of reasons. Most of it was the other airlines, sort it trying to
Oh,
trying to block this because it would have made JetBlue the third biggest carrier in the country.
okay. I had to look this up and double check it. Originally, Frontier wanted to buy Spirit in
Yes,
2022,
that would have been the
and
axis of
then
evil.
the shareholders at Spirit rejected Frontier's offer because they wanted to instead be acquired by JetBlue, a move that pretty much everybody recognized was dumb and was going to get shot down by antitrust laws. But the shareholders voted on it and tried to push this JetBlue and Spirit merger through. And sure enough, the Department of Justice was like, "Hey, you're making a monopoly. We can't. It's time to enact some antitrust laws here and put them in place so you two can't merge." And
Yeah.
left them both to fend for themselves. And that was the beginning of the end for Spirit.
Yeah, if anyone wants a railroad style equivalent, this is very much like the Milwaukee Road, where basically the Milwaukee Road spent the entirety of the 1950s trying and trying and trying to get bought by the Union Pacific, and then the government said no. And then the Milwaukee Road really didn't have any other options, and they went bankrupt after a long and protracted decline.
Mm-hmm.
And but
So
it's it
this
just it just sort of went away.
and
Um
it went out in a surprising method that I wish we had gotten a little more warning on, because Joe sent me a message at 11:15 last night, letting me know that the last 3 Spirit flights are about to land at DFW. And that's the way it shook out, because from what I was reading online, there was supposed to be later flights, but several pilots and flight attendants were calling off so that they wouldn't get stranded. They didn't know if they were going to get stranded away from home, and they didn't want to risk it. So 1833 ended up being the last flight, and it landed at DFW. And by the time I found out about it, I immediately opened up my phone, opened up Google Maps, and looked, and it was going to take me 40 minutes to get to a point where I could see this flight coming in.
I
And
still think you could have
that,
done it if you had broken every law and had and ran out the house with no shoes on. Which I'm gonna be real. I've done that sometimes. I've done that. I would have found it worth it, but obviously you have priorities and a
I was
girl.
also trying to finish this show.
We could have had an image of this from your phone of the last Spirit flight landing.
Really, if it hadn't been so cloudy last night, I probably could have pulled out my telephoto lens and seen this thing coming in from my backyard. But we had clouds basically touching my roof last night, so the only place I would have been able to see it was as it was coming into land.
Yeah.
Ear down, about to touch.
Yeah. And Actually, it would have been really funny because I looked up, as I'm sure you did, the viewing area at DFW, and they used the
Yeah.
south end of the airport, which is the other side of DFW.
Yup.
There would
Yeah,
have
that's
been
what I was
some.
trying to figure out which way it was coming in from. It's like, okay, so I need to go hang out. If I'm going to do this, I have to go hang out at the warehouses on the south end.
There was some sketchy parking lot in between the lanes of the highway by a toll booth that you could have gone to by
Yeah, I've
like
seen
the
that.
VOR or something, whatever. But anyways, yeah, no, it was. But instead, I can offer you this recording of the last transmissions from Spirit 1833, and as a result, Spirit overall, which are these are not these are in chronological order, but a lot of time has been snipped out of it. So please don't assume
Yes.
this was all over the span of like a minute.
Hey, Spirit, from us guys at American, good luck to y'all. Sorry to hear what happened.
Tower hello, Fairwings 1833, visual 35 center.
Fairwings 1833, Decoy Tower, good morning, wind 2304, runway 35 center, clear to land.
Clear to land, 35 center, Spirit 1833.
Tower, Fairwings 1833.
Fairwings 1833, Tower.
Yeah, is there any other Spirit flights coming in after us?
Let me see. I don't see anything. Unless there's. I don't think you guys flew nonstop from Intercontinental. That's like the last thing I'm kind of seeing on here. So you might be the last one.
Might be a repo flight, but yeah, I guess this is it. Probably the last revenue flight. This is it tonight.
Well, it was a pleasure working with you guys, and I wish you the best.
Been here. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's sad finding out after the fact you're the last flight.
The American Airlines pilot giving condolences is like, it's almost sad.
Yeah, I will say, for anyone who's curious, in the distant future, that other aircraft they were talking about was the fifth to last Spirit flight, which had landed at Houston Intercontinental about an hour or so earlier, getting taxied to a distant maintenance stand to so that they could be dealt with by the debtors in the morning.
Yeah, that was probably a Spirit plane being flown by a repo operator.
No. I followed it on Flight Radar 24. They turned the transponder on to taxi it down the runway. But it had a little call sign of maintenance 75. I was like, oh, they're just dragging this away to be shot in the back. Oh, okay.
Pretty much.
So yeah,
so no nationalized airlines for us.
No nationalized yellow airplane, which would have gone great with our nationalized blue railroad, which presumably would have meant that we would have had to have a nationalized bus carrier that was red. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any red interstate bus carriers anymore. Bolt Bus kind of did, but that's gone.
Yeah, I think the last red one was Trailways, wasn't it?
Trailways always did like a red and white. I'm not sure. But anyways, let's go on to our other news item of the day, which is, oh my God, this is so much worse than Spirit Airlines.
I haven't heard much of anything about this. What the hell happened?
Okay, so this is yet another horrifying thing happens in Southeast Asia, in which a bunch of people die, but white people don't hear about it. So this
Sounds about right.
This is in West Java, Indonesia. Specifically the suburb of Bekasi, which is I don't know anything about Indonesia. I know there's a couple of Indonesian people in the There's Your Problem chat who like talk about stuff there. I'm sorry guys, I don't know anything. Hopefully I don't get anything too wrong. Basically what happened is we had two separate incidents involving three separate trains occur all at once. And this led to what I believe is currently 16 people being killed. So at the start, a taxi cab operated by a company called Green SM had some sort of mechanical failure on what some people are saying might be an illegally built crossing on the railway line. I don't have certainty on that. That might just be from Reddit comments because I was scrolling through everything trying to find information because Wikipedia just says that it stopped. But the car the car stopped on the train tracks and was hit by a commuter train. This rail line is a very busy stretch of track that is served by both long distance and local commuter trains, which is what we always love to hear. Like, Indonesia runs, I believe, a narrow gauge stock, so this is all like 3-foot gauge.
It's
but
it's a huge network of narrow gauge, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, but anyways, so the commuter train that hit it stops. The next train behind it, which is train, it's a Cikarang loop line, commuter line local, operating as the PLB 5568A service, which is this.
I'm sure that makes sense to somebody.
I hope it does. This was using a Tokyo Metro 6000 class that has been.
Oh, that's rad.
So these are former Tokyo subway cars that have been pressed into service in a new life in Indonesia. Now it stopped at this station at what is it called? At Bekasi Timur railway station, because it could not proceed because there was an accident ahead of it. Behind the commuter train is the Argo Bromo Anggrek, which is an express intercity train serving Gambir and Surabaya Pasar Turi. I'm sorry if you're like Indonesian and listening to this.
We're pissing off like 0.5% of our listeners right now.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm willing to learn if someone tells me, but Wikipedia was not helpful in this regard. I'm trying really hard. But this is operated by a CC206 locomotive, which CC206 is one of EMD's numerous export locomotives they build for world markets. You can see this is the exact locomotive, and this is the exact commuter train.
Oh.
So these are the actual. You can also see them here and here in these two images. But so this was CC206-1386. You can kind of see there's a bit of an issue with these two photos, which is that the doors of the commuter train are open and you can see the locomotive. I've been informed this is bad.
I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to be like that.
No.
Can I make a nerd correction really quickly before we get an email about it? The locomotive is from GE. It's basically an Indonesian Dash 9.
Oh, is it? I'm sorry. I must have wrote that down wrong. My bad. I just assumed everything was a GE. EMD does make export locomotives. That's right.
They do.
Not
you
many.
said EMD.
I did say EMD. I forgot that GE made export locomotives.
There we go. Okay.
But
boy, whatever your nephew gave you's really got you, doesn't it?
I woke up 2 hours ago. So we're recording at 4 p.m. So I'm doing great. I got some Dayquil and some Flonase, and I'm okay.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad that you're going to be doing most of the talking for it, because I could, but like the listeners would not like that. We got a Spotify comment the other day from the one episode I did where I sounded like absolute garbage. And it was like, glad to see that Joe was getting through whatever he was going through. And I'm like, yep. Glad I did too.
Pushing through.
But I'm sorry I'm laughing because this is not a funny subject. What happened was the trains rear-ended. The express train, which is a local hauled service, smashed into the back of the EMU and went through the car, like just absolutely went through it. And
totally telescoped it.
I would barely say telescope because that implies that it obliterated might be a better word.
Yeah, it telescoped about a foot or two from the looks of it.
No, Zach,
down a bit.
This is the door of the train right here. You can see the engine through it. I saw this video. I was like, what the fuck is that? Oh, that's the locomotive. And to make things like that a little bit worse, in Indonesia, like in a lot of places in the global south where for whatever reason harassment of women is more widespread, the first and last coaches on commuter trains are designated as the women's cars where men are not allowed. So this was all like women on their way home from work or something in this car.
Oof.
So it plowed right through that. I'm going to show you guys the first 30 seconds of this video because I found that on r/Vietnam and I thought it was just going to show the car crash. And no, it shows the whole thing in a collection of videos, which include dead bodies. So we will not be showing you that because that's mean.
Yeah, please no.
Yeah, we're not going to.
Waduh. Waduh, depan rumah. Ampun.
I'm going to mute it right here because then it's just people screaming at the train station. But yeah,
So, I'm trying to get a bigger picture of this. That first train that hit the car on the crossing and stopped.
Yes. Was
it still like sitting in the station partially?
No. This is further down the line. They held the second commuter train at the next station.
Okay. For some reason, I thought all three were involved together somehow.
No, it held it at the next station, and then it ran through, and then the intercity train ran through a signal or something and hit the second commuter train.
Ugh. Oh boy.
Which, yeah. And then I would like just to take a moment as we digest that to talk about this trio of logos down here, which is the reason why this was on r/Vietnam of all places is that this taxi cab was a VinFast product. Now, does anybody here know what a VinFast is?
No.
VinFast is a Vietnamese car maker. This car in specific is a taxi version of their newest like electrics compact, the VinFast VF30. VinFast is a upstart electric car manufacturer, part of the Vin Group, which is like one of the largest industrial conglomerates in Vietnam.
Okay.
VinFast sells these cars, or at least they sell their bigger offerings, in the United States. VinFast is one of the worst new cars you can buy today.
Oh, no.
In the United States. In the US, the VinFast VF8 SUV has attracted criticism on everything from its adaptive driving modules to its suspension, to its build quality, to its reliability, to its ability to function as a car. I have no doubt that this VinFast taxi shorted out and stopped because it was made by VinFast and not for anything else. VinFast is a terrible car manufacturer. And you know this because when people bring up these issues, VinFast gets really, really mad about it. Like there was a car reviewer in Vietnam, because VinFast is a Vietnamese company, that brought this up. And VinFast got him arrested by the police.
Yo, whoa, what the fuck?
Vin Group is huge. Vin Group is like by and large from Wally. They have their own colleges. They have their own manufacturing companies. Actually, the company that owns this taxi cab, Green SM, you'll notice there's a V on its logo, right? That's because it's a VinFast property.
Oh boy.
VinFast, it's like Tesla. But what if Tesla actually did more things than just make cars and cause terrible things to happen to people?
Isn't that just Tesla?
No. Like, what if Tesla actually what if Tesla ran schools? What if Tesla had like amusement parks? Like Vin Group does. Vin Group does a huge number of things across the economic spectrum in Vietnam and I guess in Southeast Asia. I was not aware they operated outside of Vietnam before this, but yeah, they are a huge multinational corporation. They're run by a billionaire, as one does. It's his company. And it's just, yeah, I have no doubt that this is entirely
my
because it's a
God.
it's a shitty car. VinFast is actually, I think, under investigation by the NTSB because a car in California killed a family of 4, and they're not sure if it was because the adaptive driving system just stopped working.
Oh, that's cool. Just
like if
just
you
up and quit. All
if
right.
you, or it steered them into a wall. I'm not certain. I haven't looked into that much, but if you see a weird SUV with a V on the front, stay as far away from it as you can. You won't see one because nobody bought them. Like, they're still here. You can if you were so deluded, you could go and plunk down like $60,000 or $70,000 for a VF8, and you could buy one, and it would suck. Like Zach, look up the actually do me a favor, look up
you
the
think
MSR.
it's that much?
I do.
I already have it pulled up. The VF8 base model is $39,900.
Oh boy, they must have dropped the price. I thought they went for more. But
I'm on the website right now. Yeah, no, these are cheap for the size of car they are, but there's a reason it's so cheap.
Yeah, do not buy a VinFast VF8.
How much is the premium ESUV, the VF9? That's $62,900.
That's what might be what I was talking about. But yes, the VF9 is $60,000 and it's a piece of dog shit. Like, this is like Hyundai in the 1980s levels of quality. Like, there's a reason, like, Hyundai did make cars in the United States in the 1980s, and there's a reason why you don't see them anymore.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw an old Hyundai.
Uh-huh. Good fucking reason for that.
Well, okay, yeah, so
as far as I'm aware, 16 people are dead. VinFast tangentially at fault for this. More realistically, I would like to just be serious for a second. More realistically, it's probably down to whatever the state of this rail line was, because they clearly were able to just have trains run through signals unchecked. Is the bigger issue here.
Yeah.
Like it says on Wikipedia, they have open block signaling. Open block signaling and no PTC clearly. You know, no any form of train control. Just
you're accidentally foreshadowing for something we're going to talk about later in this episode.
Oh shit, that's right. I hadn't even thought of that. That's hilarious. But yeah, so is there anything else that we need to talk about before I go on to the next slide?
Do you
have any questions?
Yeah. None that don't have an answer, which is it's too expensive to install safety things that could have prevented this, more than likely.
Probably. I'm interested in hearing what the actual cause is. If any of you happen to be Indonesian and you're still willing to speak to us after butchering all the names, please do let us know when the actual report comes out. And if there's an English translation, we'll read it.
Give us a pronunciation guide, and
we'll correct
this in a future episode.
That would be great. I would love to know how any of this is actually pronounced. I don't do this on purpose.
It's not a bit. It's very different from how we're used to reading things.
It's not an English pronunciation thing. So it's like, yeah. So anyways, we're going to go on to the next slide now. The Bud logo at like 10,000 magnification.
Yeah, it's really hard to find a high resolution image of the Bud logo. Some of these images are going to be a little crusty, and I'm sorry, but that's what you get when some of these sources are so limited. Before we talk about our incident today, there's so little information about it. We have to pad this out a little bit, so let's talk about one of my favorite things, which is context. So, the Budd Company was founded in 1912 by Edward G. Budd. It got its start manufacturing the first all-steel automobile bodies for the Dodge brothers. Yes, those Dodge brothers, as in Dodge automobiles. For a couple of decades, the Bud Company focused on making automotive bodies, including the first mass-produced unibody car, which was the Nash 600 in 1934. Now, while they were working on this, at the same time, the research and development department, primarily led by an employee named Earl Ragsdale, were exploring the possibilities of 18-8 stainless steel. It's a tricky metal to work with, but a Bud team developed a method of bonding pieces of stainless steel together called shot welding. This method, which is performed by clamping two pieces of stainless steel together, placing an electrode on either side of the pieces, and then passing a very brief and strong current of electricity between the electrodes and the metal, produces a bond that is 50% stronger than a rivet of the same size, doesn't distort or warp the metal, and doesn't damage the layer of oxidization that makes stainless steel so resilient.
Doesn't it also give, like, the guys welding it a super cancer or 7?
I actually don't know about that. I didn't see that. I would not doubt it.
I was under
I
the
would
okay,
not
I'm
doubt
sorry.
it.
This might just be a me thing then. I was under the impression that, like, the guys who did shot welding for Bud got, like, cancer, like, there was a really strong weld and they got really strong tumors as a result.
There are certain chemicals that can off-gas as parts of various chemical reactions that happen when you grind or weld on different types of metal. I would not doubt that some kind of super cancer-causing fume was produced by shot welding, which is probably why it's so expensive to do anything with stainless steel today, or a part of why it's so expensive to do anything with stainless steel.
Okay. Also, fun fact, the Dodge Brothers' first logo had a Star of David on it because they were Jewish. Which is something I'm sure would horrify most Dodge owners today.
I cannot wait to start spreading that conspiracy theory around just to see if it takes off. I'm going to find a way to.
The Dodge Challenger is a Jewish conspiracy. Yeah, that'll actually be really fun.
The Ram is to ram Judaism down your throat.
I love that you made a script for this because all I have to contribute is that while you were talking, I sneezed so hard I blew a hole through the Kleenex. So,
you know what? This is a good episode for you to not be 100% on.
Yeah, right? Holy shit. He wrote a script. I never do that. I just talk until there's nothing left.
So, a little behind the scenes, I recently realized that my methods were not working for preparing myself for these shows. So I ended up buying a tablet, and I have 22 pages of handwritten notes to go with this entire show. It's not going to feel like 22 pages. It's going to feel like your average episode of Somehow You Didn't Die on Your Way to Work. But being able to write this stuff out really helped me out. So I'm just scrolling through this as we go. It's been so much nicer.
I showed up with a can of Mr. Pibb Zero and a bottle of Fiji water and was like, let's do this shit.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I do on the airplane episodes.
All right, fair enough. Are we on to the next slide now?
Not yet.
Okay.
So we were talking about the shot welding. And it's not like a traditional weld where you weld an entire seam along the two pieces of metal that need to be joined together. Shot welding is more like sewing in that you place a row of shots spaced a certain distance apart depending on how big the pieces are you need to fix together. But it's kind of, it will end up looking like you're looking at two pieces of fabric that were sewed together where you can only see the top of the stitch coming over, and then it goes back down again underneath the pieces and then comes back up again. And you can see just a row of shots like a button row. So why is this metal so important? Well, 18-8 stainless, which is known today as SA304 stainless, is an alloy of iron, carbon, chromium, and nickel. It is extremely corrosion resistant, doesn't bond well with paint or dirt, which makes it extremely easy to clean. While it can't be heat treated, it does gain strength with cold working. As such, the processes of rolling and extruding stainless steel to form it into things like side sheets for the side panels on rail cars, fluting for decoration, or even stamping it into a final shape like a serving dish for a buffet only makes the stainless steel stronger. Every little thing you do to it makes it stronger. I'm sure there's a point you can work it to a point where it gets brittle, but as the amount of working you need to get stainless steel shaped for pretty much everything that we use it for only helps every time.
I love that
Now
you
we're
could
on
basically start a company off of, we have this one material that's readily available and a process that like people know about, and we're just better at it than everybody else.
No, actually, for a long time, Bud was the only one that could shot weld this stuff.
Huh.
They got the patent on it. There were other companies that made products out of stainless steel, but it was all stuff that was stamped out. Like the example I gave for serving dishes at a buffet, you can do that without welding any pieces together. You just take a sheet of stainless and push it down into a mold. Okay. That was what everybody else could do with it at the time, and that was it.
Yeah, just make an entire mold that's the size of a railroad car. Ka-chunk. Look at me.
I want to see that press.
Look at me. I am the Bud Company now with my giant press in the background. Anyway, next slide. There we go.
Next slide.
This is so many more wheels than I was expecting, because we've got
and they're not just wheels. They're weird wheels.
Oh boy. What is happening on that back coach? Are those 4 wheels on 8? Are those 8?
What?
Are those 8-wheel trucks?
You just wait.
Oh,
you just wait. So, the Bud Company's discovery of the efficacy of shot welding opened the door to a market that Bud had been trying to break into for several years: railroads. After dabbling with French rubber-tired cars in conjunction with the Michelin Tire Company, Bud's first attempt at entering the U.S. market was the Silver Slipper, which is what we see here. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry if you could hear that burp.
Did they build the Montreal Metro before Montreal did?
No, but Montreal Metro definitely took inspiration from this.
Okay.
So the Silver Slipper here was built in 1933 for the Texas and Pacific Railroad.
Really?
And it was an experimental 2-car train set. What was that noise?
Really?
Oh, did you just cut off a sneeze?
No, I said really.
The TNP got the first streamliner as we know it today.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
So this 2-car train set, the first car was a combined power car, railway post office, and a baggage section. That one rode on 2 traditional 2-axle 4-wheel trucks.
Yeah, they look
that
like
was
the
completely
ones
normal.
They look like are those Blombergs or the other kind? They look normal.
I'm not sure on those, but they're definitely passenger style trucks because they're very beefy. They're designed to absorb a lot of movement.
They're definitely not whatever the fuck is going on in the trailer.
No, because that trailing section is purely passenger seating. It has room for 76 passengers. It was surprisingly Jim Crow compliant, which meant that it had a separate seating section for white passengers and not white passengers. If I had to bet, not white passengers were at the front and the white passengers were at the back, where there was presumably some kind of observation section back there.
No, they put the black people on the left and the white people on the right. It was very awkward.
That would probably be the most literal application of separate but equal.
Longitudinal Jim Crow, and we just make sure that the train tracks are ugly on one side and not the other.
Now, there's some opportunity for malicious compliance if you put all of the non-white passengers on the nicer, the side with the nicer views.
Yeah, this is Texas in the 20s. They weren't doing that shit, Zach.
They weren't. They definitely weren't.
Sounds like Foghorn Leghorn saying "boy" every 3 seconds.
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Obviously, this trailing section did not ride on normal railroad trucks like what you see on the front section. This was the Bud Company's last-ditch effort in trying to enter the market with rubber-tired vehicles. Those wheels are like traditional railroad wheels, except instead of having a metal tread, it actually has an inflatable rubber tread. That the rim of it looks more like what you would see on a regular railroad wheel, just scaled down to make room for the rubber tire to be seated on it, and it still has a metal flange on the inside of the rubber wheels.
That sounds incredibly cursed, and I'm getting flashbacks to the ICE derailment where they where the rubber inner ring expanded and popped the metal off.
That was one of the issues with this. They would absolutely love to blow tires in the middle of the summer.
Yep. Also, I would like to say Bud did try to make a car. So this isn't the last rubber-tired vehicle they sold.
Okay, the last rubber-tired rail vehicle.
Yes.
I didn't know about the car. That's bizarre.
I don't think they made more than a prototype. They also tried to make an airplane, which presumably had rubber landing gear.
I would hope it did.
The airplane, by the way...
Unless it was a float plane.
The airplane, by the way, is on display outside the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia.
Something else to add to the list of things I need to see.
You can see it from the street. You don't even have to go in, because I went to the Franklin Institute last year, and it wasn't that good on the inside. It's very much like, this is great if you're 7.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, it's great if you're 7, which is why I went so many times when I was a kid. And then,
well, I'm sure many of you could figure out by the fact that we don't have about 1 billion of these things running around today. This was flat tires were an issue, short service lives, and specialized tooling necessary to replace the tires very frequently on that rear section led to the Silver Slipper being, quote, a costly failure, end quote, that was, again, quote, extremely embarrassing for the Bud Company, end quote.
I bet, you know what, I just had a thought? Imagine this thing being delivered to the Texas and Pacific, because, you know, Bud is in Philadelphia. Imagine being like the poor dumb asshole on the Pennsylvania Railroad who has to figure out how to ship this thing to Texas while acknowledging the fact that, like, it has rubber wheels.
Oh, every carman at every yard was coming out to look at this thing and go, what the hell is that?
What the fuck is that? How do I do it? You've got one asshole who tries to send it around the horseshoe curve in, like, the middle of a train. Because he just wants to see
kind of funny.
Just wants to see what would happen. You've got like it's like got a K4 that's like 6 times taller than it in front of it.
Well, this was also the time where train crews were about as cheap as dirt in the pre-World War II era. So this very well may have just been run under its own power all the way down there.
Oh, that would have
just
been
passed off from crew to crew.
Even more cursed.
There's a guy from the Bud Company that rides along with it the whole way that's telling the crew, it's like, all right, it runs a lot like other diesels. Here's the weird parts about it. If you have to shut it down, here's how you start it up.
Do they have diesels at this point? Is this somebody's first experience with a diesel engine?
It could be. It very well could be, depending on where they were working.
It's so fucking fun. Oh my god. It runs just like every other diesel. What the fuck is a diesel? Says the road You get to Conway Yard and just someone says, "What the fuck is a diesel?" And it leaves with like a Q.
Why is it growling at me?
It leaves with like a K4 on the front because nobody wants to figure it out.
Oof, the shame.
But do we need to go on to the next slide now?
This thing was scrapped in 1935.
I can only imagine why.
So I don't even know if it was a full 2 years. It didn't do well. Now we can go to the next slide.
Hey,
let's look at something a little more successful. Yeah.
Ray is hooting and hollering right now.
Ray and DJ both, I am sure. So the wheels of that coach section on the Silver Slipper were the only real failure of that project. I found some indications that the diesel engine in it didn't perform quite as well as they thought, but it was still decent. So Bud learned from their mistakes, and in 1934 produced the first 3-section articulated steel-wheeled streamlined passenger train set for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. It was the second of its kind for being a successful streamlined passenger train after the Union Pacific's M10,000. Silver Slipper was first. This is like the son of the Silver Slipper, so it ends up getting a lot of the glory just because it wouldn't blow its tires out on the railroad.
This is my son. He has none of my diseases.
Thankfully. So this is the Burlington Zephyr. It was known as the Burlington Zephyr while it was in testing. And when it was finally put into revenue service on November 11th of 1934, it was christened the Pioneer Zephyr. And this is the train that put Bud on the map. This lightweight unibody construction, clad in stainless steel, was fast and economic to operate and was a boon to the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy and many other railroads who eventually ordered similar trains, as it helped them recover from losses of the Great Depression. As a benefit, the car bodies themselves were extremely low maintenance, owing largely to the shot-welded stainless steels. While other car builders tried to clad their cars in stainless steel to keep up with the style and the aesthetic of this, only Bud could shot weld. Other builders were forced to kind of, in a weird way, rivet stainless steel panels to what's called Core 10 steel. It's also known as weather steel. But the rivets would act as a conduit for the natural anodization that can occur between different types of metals. So the Core 10 and the stainless would cause both panels of the different metals to rust from the inside out.
Oh, that sounds fun. I've got a car like that.
And Core 10 was never great for the railroad application, at least. A lot of railroads would also try to just use Core 10 steel and paint over it to make it look good. But then the issue is that Core 10 steel only gets rust resistance over a very long period of time if left to the elements naturally, or the process can be sped up, but only in a controlled chemical reaction process that you would get in a factory. So the Core 10 would be painted over, it would lose its weather resistance, and then something would chip the paint, a rock, a piece of ballast or something being kicked up from the roadbed, and it would chip the paint on the Core 10 steel. Now, that bare bit of Core 10 that was exposed to the elements would start to rot. And from there, it would only grow.
This sounds a lot like every General Motors product I've ever seen in my life.
It's a similar thing. That's why it is so important to have a good coat of paint on automobiles today, is to prevent exactly this kind of rust and this kind of cancerous spread of the rust.
Mm-hmm.
So, while the other builders' cars would rust from the inside out, the Bud streamlined product now expanded to include individual passenger cars as well as train sets soldiered on across America's passenger rail network. In more recent years, this has led to our favorite colloquialism, Bud, don't break. Don't ask about the AM fleets, though.
I mean, in fairness, the AM fleets are still going.
Barely.
They are, in fact, here. They may not be happy about it, but they're here.
Yeah. They're here.
They outlived their surface lives by like a gazillion years.
They really did, and that is impressive. But there is some frame issues with those that's going to put them out of service much sooner than later.
The frame issues weren't... They didn't shot weld the frames. Could you imagine making an entire car out of stainless steel frame and all?
Do you know how heavy that would be?
I don't see an issue with that.
I mean, I think it's just a reason to bring a GG1 back.
Yeah, you just get the entire...
Because it'll haul those, no problem.
The entire train is stainless steel from wheels to roof. It weighs 7,000 tons. It collapses every bridge behind it.
Yeah, but that one trip is going to be cool as hell.
Yeah, it sparkles in the sun
Worth it.
from every angle.
Worth it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we have to ask, what is a Bud RDC? Next slide, please.
Hey, I know this one.
The answer is cool as hell. That's what a Bud RDC is.
I have a photograph
The
of
RDC.
this one.
What's that?
I have a photograph of this one.
Yeah, I just saw you post that the other day.
Yes.
This is a photograph from a day that I went out to the Museum of the American Railroad in Frisco, and we were trying to get this started. But it turns out that when Alstom rebuilt it in the early 90s, I believe, they didn't document about half of the electrical work they did on it. So we spent all day chasing electrical gremlins.
Love
Never got it
Alstom.
started.
Fuck Alstom. Does it work now?
I haven't worked on it a bit. I believe late last year, the chief mechanical officer, Stephen Wainscott, was able to get all 3 engines started up and finally got the day of hard work and then being able to relax in the air conditioning that he wanted the day that I took this photo about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah. I gotta say, it being like, the fact that this ran for Trinity until like the 2010s was cool as fuck.
Oh, let me think. They ran for this particular one, or this fleet of RDCs ran for Trinity Railway Express, I want to say until the late 2000s. And then in 2011, a new commuter service started up from that was going to go from Carrollton, which is a northern suburb of Dallas, up to Denton, which is not quite a suburb. It's a decent sized city, home to the University of North Texas. And they ordered Stadler GTWs, but they were not going to be ready in time for the first couple of months of service. So these RDCs went back into service again for, I want to say, 6 months, running the A-Train service.
I was reading about all the Dallas area commuter rail services the other night. This, I maintain, cool as hell.
It's shocking how much we have up here.
Mm-hmm. This is cool as hell.
I love Bud RDCs. One of my earliest memories of being able to do something cool on a train was my dad and I riding on one of these for fun late one evening, and the engineer seeing me like standing behind the door at the end of the car looking out into the cab where he was, and just opening the door and inviting me in and letting me watch as we're flying down this main line at 70 mile an hour in an RDC.
Hell yeah.
And blowing the horn at one point.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
Dude, it was so cool. I wish that cell phone cameras had been more prevalent at that time so my dad could have gotten a picture or something. But this was like 1995.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing. But the Bud RDC RDC is short for Rail Diesel Car, and it was the Bud Company's answer to a market that developed in the passenger rail industry in the boom years following World War II. In the 60 years or so prior to the war, railroads were hard pressed to find self propelled rail cars that were economical for use on lightly traveled branch lines. A locomotive haul train could be prohibitively expensive to run on a route that might not even see an entire coachload of passengers. Next slide, please.
Oh, yeah,
Various-
these things.
Oh, yeah. Various builders attempted to satisfy the demand for cheaper vehicles with oddities such as steam motors, wherein a diminutive steam locomotive would be the front third of a rail car, with passenger seating and maybe a baggage or RPO amenities making up the rest of the rail car. And these strange contraptions were effectively the mullets of the railroads. Business in the front, party in the back.
I would like to say neither of these is a steam motor, but
No.
I know what
I
these
couldn't
are, but the names escape me of the top thing.
We're about to find out. So these two particular ones are great examples of what we got as the 19th century gave way to the 20th century. Manufacturers like the McKean Motor Car Company,
That's what it is.
who has in the top left here, actually had a relatively successful business with gas electric motor cars.
They look
And-
fucking amazing.
The wind splitting wedge point and the porthole windows, it makes a very unique look.
And the rounded door with the arch of rivets above it. Oh, it's
Oh yeah, the round top doors are just a very cool aesthetic decision.
How many McKeans have survived? I don't remember.
Not a lot, and if I recall, there's one in Nevada that's being restored to operation
Okay. and
because
there's
of the
also a
efforts of
trailer in
one young
IRM.
guy.
Say that again?
The one in Nevada is being restored thanks to the efforts of one young man who,
God bless him.
as I want to say, as a mid-teenager, started an effort to buy this body from some farm that it was sitting on, get it shipped to the Nevada State Railroad Museum, I think it is,
No,
and then raised funds to start rebuilding it.
you mean like the Nevada Northern, basically?
Not the Nevada Northern. It's the one down in Reno.
Oh, I'm not familiar with it, but I know what it is. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
great for him. I think there's also a McKean trailer at IRM or something like that. That's just sort of there.
That would be cool.
And you know what you're leaving out of this this array of pictures is, of course, the various nonsenses that were doodle bugs. Or
Well,
they-
we have a doodle bug on the bottom right.
No. I mean like the like the Pensy style doodle bugs where there's just like a gas motor in the cab and then there's passenger seating behind it. I bring up the ones that like poisoned the engineers with carbon monoxide fumes.
I will say that the one on the bottom right, Santa Fe M160, is close to that, except this is a product of the JG Brill Company, and it was late enough in the self-propelled motor car game that the Santa Fe realized that they didn't want passengers near the engine because it put off so many fumes. So instead, only the engineer, a head end brakeman if there was one, and whoever might be working in the baggage section were subjected to the gasoline fumes.
Yeah.
This was a gasoline electric motor, and this motor car survives today along with the round end observation car that's behind it. Both are at the Museum of the American Railroad in Frisco.
Yeah, I saw this when I was there. I was so excited, and the guy who was giving the tour knew absolutely nothing. I was like,
It's a weird little piece.
yeah, because they what the reason why it was flat fronted was that I think the Rock Island liked to do this as well, where they would stick these in the middle of a consist so it looked right, so that you could just disconnect like the last two cars from the from like the Zephyr or the El Cap, not the El Cap, the Chief, and it would just go off down a branch by itself without disrupting the line of the train.
Yep. It was purely aesthetic driven. This one does have the engine right behind the Engineer. I don't know when, but at some point they realized that having a gasoline electric engine was insanely dumb because the flash point of gasoline is so low. And it was retrofitted with a diesel electric engine in its place. But it is still right behind you. And if you fire it up, because it does still run, it is so loud in the cab.
Well, hearing complaints weren't a real thing then.
Yeah. Or, maybe you can shove some cotton wad in your ear. And
what's that, Sonny? I lost my hearing on the Santa Fe.
That's it. Now, prior to World War II, no manufacturer would produce diesel-powered self-propelled rail vehicles because diesel engine technology was still in its relative infancy, and a diesel engine that was powerful enough to move even just the car it was mounted to would be too large to leave enough room for any sort of passenger use.
Yeah.
So at that point, you might as well just have a locomotive haul train.
Yeah, fun fact, if you go to the IRM, in the back of, I think, Barn 9, there actually is the first, like, Winton diesel locomotive ever made for a train. And it's there.
Oh, that's cool.
It's there because EMD, and I think by extension General Motors, was like, they wrote IRM asking if they wanted anything, and it took, like, 3 different levels of explaining what IRM was before they finally, like, got something that was railroad related. Like sort of like that SpongeBob meme of "This is your wallet," right? Like that one. And so whoever wrote the sign at IRM must have been personally affected by that, because it is the cattiest information board I've ever seen. Of like, it took us 5 tries to explain to GM what we were, and finally they just mentioned offhand they had this.
I mean, that's still a pretty important save nonetheless.
Yeah, no, it's there. You can go
Probably
see
not
it.
quite what they were aiming for, but I'm glad they got it.
Yeah, you can see it. It's there. It's very small.
Well, during World War II, the Detroit Diesel Company actually made leaps and bounds in diesel engine technology, and by 1945 had developed a lightweight 2-stroke inline-6 engine that they called the 110 series. With 2 of these little engines and a newly developed hydraulic torque converter, Bud made a fast, streamlined, and cost-efficient self-propelled rail vehicle. This is the RDC. Let's go to that next slide.
Hello.
The RDC, introduced in 1949, was quickly found to be the relief to many railroads' passenger service woes. It was light on its feet, and the RDC could effectively be used for branch line and commuter services. Operational flexibility was another huge factor. Any number of RDCs could be coupled together and controlled from the leading unit, allowing railroads to change the number of available seats and amenities on any train using RDCs in just minutes by adding or removing cars. And the RDC was available in 4 standard configurations to start with, thus streamlining the manufacturing process and making parts availability practically a non-issue.
I didn't
Here
know
on the
that
right,
the RDC-4 was for Mail and Express.
Mm-hmm. On the right, we could see diagrams for 2 different variations. The top shows the RDC-1, which was purely passenger seating. It had room for 90 people, and it had 2 restrooms on it, one on either end.
And air conditioning.
And air conditioning, which was still pretty new and novel at the time, and I couldn't find info on it, but it was probably a compressor that was powered by a Detroit diesel.
Hell yeah.
The photo on the bottom right shows an RDC-2, which has the rear half for safe passenger seating. It had 71 seats. I'm not sure where that odd 1 comes from.
It's right
Or
there.
the front half.
It's next to the. It's the two by the door.
I guess that would be it, huh?
Yeah, they sit side. They sit sideways.
Oh no! Look, I see it now. Right in front of the baggage section, there's the two longitudinal seats, and at the back, one corner has a bathroom, but across the aisle from it is another single longitudinal seat.
Yep.
That's where your oddball comes from. Okay, that makes sense.
Spirit Railways, every seat is $50 except for the one by the toilet, which is $3. That's the one they advertise.
I'd pay for it. You're probably going to be able to exit out of that door first.
Oh no, it's priority deboarding costs $700. You have to sit your ass down and wait.
Well, the front the front quarter of that car was a 17-foot baggage section, which made it great for branch line services. The standardization combined with the low operating costs and the reliability of the RDCs meant that by the time Bud ceased production of these in 1962, they had built 398 of them for customers in North America, South America, Asia, and Australia. And there are still many of these that are still in service today.
Yeah, and fun fact, the RDC holds the land speed record for a rail vehicle in the United States.
Yeah, thanks to that one that they strapped jet engines to.
Yes, the M492 Black Beetle on the New York Central had two jet engines strapped to its roof and achieved officially 180 miles an hour outside of between Bryan and Stryker, Ohio. But it may have gone even faster. It may have broke 200. It's just that it hit the speed trap doing 180. So the versatility and strength of this car is not to be underestimated. They're still in service to this day.
Yeah. I mean, you could still go up to Canada and ride these.
Yeah.
I think you can ride them in Oregon still. And on the TriMet.
Yeah.
I think. Don't quote me.
I think it's there's an express there's a passenger rail service operated south of Portland that I think has them. Oh God, let me look at this up.
Well, let's go on to that next slide while you look this up. Because now this leads us to the Canadian Pacific Railroad. Now, the Canadian Pacific was a relatively late adopter, and they purchased 53 RDCs of various configurations between 1953 and 1957. The RDC, unsurprisingly, turned out to be perfect solutions for trains that served rural communities across Canada. Dubbed the Dayliners, these were highly anticipated by both the railroad and the riding public. They were all built under license by the Canadian Car and Foundry Company in Montreal, Quebec, and they were quickly pressed into service after brief testing periods because they already knew the design would work. Now they're just making sure that all the individual components on the specific car that they're testing work okay.
Okay, so I looked it up. You're gonna love this.
It's
West WES Commuter Rail in Portland. It's West Side Express Service, what it stands for. They operate. It's operated by the Portland and Western, which is a Genesee and Wyoming railroad, which means that if you wanted to move to, it's operated under association with TriMet. They contracted it out, which means that if you move to Portland, Zach, you can drive an RDC for a living.
Excuse me, we need to put this podcast on pause while I put in for a transfer.
They have a weird collection of Colorado railcar DMUs and
I've seen that,
and RDC 1s, 2s, and 3s, which I would like to point out. I'm going to send you a photograph, which is, we may have to put this in here, which is one of the Colorado railcar DMUs running with a Bud RDC.
Oh yes,
with a cab car. It's the RDC at one end and the cab car. The other?
That's one of the old Trinity Railway Express RDCs.
Oh, that's even better. The roof lines match. Oh fuck! I'll just here. Hold on. How do I? Yeah, I'll put this in afterwards. Fuck, I'm gonna have to do editing. Anyways, we were talking about Canadian Pacific Dayliners.
Yes, and that's actually all I had for that slide. So let's go on to the next one.
Do we ask what is
Now-
Alberta at this point?
From what I've been told by family who has family from Alberta, Alberta is the Mississippi of Canada. And I'm going to leave it at that.
They do
I'm gonna
manage
leave it
to
at
keep
that.
rats out. That's about all I know.
Yeah,
They have a very good pest control program. There
they
hasn't been
do.
there hasn't been a rat in Alberta for 50 years.
So they're above Mississippi then.
Yes.
All right. The Dayliners were an instant hit. Heated in the winter and air conditioned in the summer, they could practically dash out of stations reaching 60 miles an hour or 96 kilometers an hour in 2 minutes and would hit a maximum speed of 90 miles an hour or 145 kilometers an hour not long after. Among the many technological developments, the RDCs were equipped with disc brakes, which were strong and practically silent compared to the older tread brakes that were effective but screeched if the engineer applied just a little too much brake. In the top left, we can see one reason why the RDCs were popular. Residents and visitors alike could take advantage of the baggage sections to bring along fishing poles, skis and ski poles, and even canoes. But the canoes had to be loaded out through the front vestibules. But it worked.
And this is in 1999. I would like to point out this photo is from
that photo is from 1999.
9/11/99. Can't beat that with a.
Oh, if only they knew what would happen.
Yeah, I also like how the route map is with a little heart on it for the Dayliner.
Yes, this is a Canadian Pacific schedule timetable. I can't remember what year this one came from. It was earlier on in
Before the
Dayliner service.
VIA, I feel.
Yes, VIA was not a thing yet.
Please see our episode on the Hinton collision for what is VIA.
Funny enough, we're actually going to be talking about both of these things shortly.
Great. Oh, great.
Now, on the right, we can see a typical Dayliner schedule from a Canadian Pacific timetable. Train number 525, which is on the left side of the timetable, I have outlined in red. It operated from Calgary to Edmonton and could complete a 193.9 mile or 312 kilometer trip in 3.5 hours, maintaining an average speed of 55.4 mile an hour or 89.1 kilometers an hour. The next column over shows the schedule for train 527, the Eskimo, which was a locomotive hauled train that did almost the exact same trip. The Eskimo didn't stop in Crossfield, but it did stop in Bowden, where the Dayliner didn't, and it made the same trip in 4 hours. The only disadvantage there was the fact that it was a locomotive hauled train and was slower to accelerate, so it couldn't make as good of time. And now I think it's time to go to an intermission because, as embarrassing as it is for how little we've been recording thus far, I have to pee. So if you got to pee, now's a good time to go as well. I'll be right back, Joe.
Well. Right.
Okay, I guess we're just going to cut this bit out of the podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll be right back.
Right, bye.
Oh, I heard you humming, so I presume you're back.
Yeah, I went and found the image of the West Side Express thing, so I'm just going to put this up here. And then now I don't have to do edit. Now I don't have to do editing. I still have to do editing because I have to put the Spirit Airlines picture in, but that's like the first.
That's one less bit of editing you have to do. So you ready to start back up again?
Next slide.
Okay.
Right. Or do we?
Yeah, let's look at a particular RDC and the journey that it took on March 23rd, 1983.
I see some guys' faces in the newspaper.
That's always a great start, right?
Yeah, let's put a human face to this.
You would be surprised at how hard it was to find those pictures.
You would, okay, excuse me. How hard would it be to find anything about this accident? Look me in the eye and tell me how hard it is to find things about this accident.
I feel like this is an appropriate place to shout out Ray and DJ and the fantastic gift they gave us with a newspapers.com's gift subscription, because it was pretty much the only way I could find anything besides two firsthand accounts that were posted on a blog.
Yeah, that's where we found the original stuff. That's where we originally got sent, was from that blog. And it's like,
yeah,
I didn't know that he was even looking at stuff on the on newspapers.com. We're gonna have to start doing this more.
It was fantastic. So once again, thank you, Matthew, for the suggestion. Thank you, Ray and DJ, for making this immeasurably easier.
And no thanks at all to the University of Manitoba, who I'll get to in a minute.
Oh. Yeah, fuck them.
No, I mean, actually, no, they're pretty nice. They're just difficult, but because I'm saying this because one of the people I emailed there seemed interested in listening to this.
The people were nice. The processes set up are awful.
Yes, that's more. Yes, yeah. No thanks at all to Canada. Let's rephrase that.
Picking fights with our hat again. Hell yeah.
What's good enough for the president's good enough for me. Anyway, who are these guys?
We're going to start talking about some real shit here. So, gotta crack another one. Now, this Wednesday started off like any other for conductor Chuck Johnson and engineer Stuart Tomling.
What day was it? It's a Wednesday. What? Do we have a specific date yet?
I said the date right before we transitioned, but that's in a different set of notes. Hang on. Wednesday. Please load. Wednesday, March 23rd, 1983.
Which day? March 23rd, 83?
That's it.
Yeah, specific Wednesday. You don't get to know which Wednesday.
It was a Wednesday. It's up to you all to figure it out. I said the date already.
March 23rd, 1983. We've said it now enough times. Continue.
So Chuck Johnson and Stuart Tomling were the conductor and the engineer of Via Rail Train 194. Via, God damn it. I'm sorry. Via Rail Train 194. These two men were not just co-workers, but also neighbors living down the street from each other, from what I could tell. And they are both experienced veterans of their respective crafts who hired on as young men. Tomling was 58 years old and had a whopping 41 years of experience. I could not tell when conductor Johnson started, but the fact that he held down a job as cushy and easy as a dayliner speaks to some pretty good seniority, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. Now
we're looking at an RDC.
Chilly spring day in South Edmonton found Tomling and Johnson assigned Bud RDC number 6146. It was built in September of 1955 as Canadian Pacific number 9102. And this RDC-2, built with a baggage section, was rebuilt in April of 1974 to have its baggage section removed and replaced with more passenger seating. Canadian Pacific referred to these cars as
surgery.
Even better, they were no longer referred to as RDC-2s. They were now referred to as RDC-5s, which is a type that was not an official designation recognized by the Bud Company, but used exclusively by the Canadian Pacific to refer to cars that were built as 2s and had the baggage section removed. In 1977, intercity passenger rail services were taken over by Via Rail, similarly to Amtrak taking passenger services in the U.S. This RDC-5 was transferred to Via as part of the changing of hands and was subsequently renumbered to number 6146. Next slide, please.
Yep. Check out that little Volkswagen Beetle down there. You never see those anymore either.
Oh, I know. That's so cool. Did you just? There you
Well-
are. There you are. Okay.
Yeah, we're on the next slide.
Now, I can't tell if this photo shows number 6146. I'm pretty sure it doesn't because the front windows look too small, but it does show South Edmonton Station in the early 1980s, which is where this trip started.
There's so much grain in this photo, you could harvest it.
Oh, it is so grainy, but I mean, it's Alberta. They do grain. Now, on this particular day, RDC number 6146 was not in perfect condition. A safety device known as a dead man was malfunctioning. This feature should require engineer Tomling to keep his foot on a pedal on the floor anytime the train was moving. If his foot came off of the pedal, the emergency brakes would apply. This crew, Johnson and Tomling, was working a round trip that started at Calgary, went to Edmonton, and then would return to Calgary. And on the northbound trip, it was found that the dead man was not working. So while they were laying over at Edmonton, the Canadian Pacific sent over some mechanics who were looking at it and figured out that they couldn't fix it in Edmonton. So the decision was made to just continue with the trip, run south to Calgary, and then it could be thrown into the shops there who knew how to repair these and had the parts for it. I'm not sure if it was a knowledge or a parts thing, but either way, couldn't be fixed in Edmonton. But it'll be fine. It's just one short little trip, couple hours down to Calgary. Nobody will notice, right?
Yeah, we're one day till retirement. Don't worry about it.
Next slide, please. So here's the schedule of the train that Tomling and Johnson were working that day. Yes, instead of symbols indicating what train is locomotive hauled, which trains are RDCs, and what are buses, now you get pictograms. There are 2 quote-unquote trains that are buses and 4 that are RDCs.
Yeah, I love the little hump that shows it's an RDC.
Yes, I forgot to mention in the description, but the engines that provide power to propel the RDCs are on the roof. That's what that hump is up there.
Wait,
so if you're sitting in the middle of the car, you could hear it rev up.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's awesome. But
hang on, I feel like I'm about to burp.
Oh wow, I could hear that one.
Excuse me.
I like how there's 2 different train stations for the CP services and the CN ones, and you only can get to the CN station on the bus.
Yes. Because they weren't directly connected.
Yep.
Or I believe they were directly connected, but it would have required some weird trackage rights to actually get there, and nobody wanted to mess with that. And South Edmonton was only a mile or 2 outside of Edmonton, so it wasn't hard to get to.
I also like how, because the RDCs and the buses have no onboard catering, that there's a 20-minute stop at Red Deer.
Yeah, and the timetable even tells you vending machines are available at Red Deer Station, dispensing soft drinks, soup, tea, coffee, hot chocolate, and candy. Good transit service is available to and from South Edmonton Station.
Soup from a vending machine has to be the most concerning sentence that I've ever
I would
heard.
not. I would not.
Actually, it was mentioned in the
We're getting there.
In the first-hand report that the coffee at Red Deer was terrible.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
At 8 a.m. sharp. Train number 194. 8 a.m. sharp. Train number 194 departed Edmonton right on time. South Edmonton right on time for the southbound trip to Calgary. Conductor Johnson noted an extremely light passenger load on this day. Only a handful of seats were occupied, and the most prominent noise was that of the 2 Detroit diesels on the roof. Johnson joked with his few passengers that a vending machine at the upcoming Red Deer station would give you a cup of coffee for only 30 cents, and one sip of it would tell you why.
Nah.
Now, train number 194 made its scheduled stop at Wetaskiwin and Red Deer, but skipped the stops at Innisfail and Olds. Nobody on the train needed those stops, and the station agent at Red Deer wired ahead to these next two stations and found that 194 had nobody to pick up there, so no need to stop if nobody's getting on or off. For the most part, Engineer Tomling flew his RDC at 90 mile an hour, only occasionally slowing down for curves in the few small towns that dotted the wide open Alberta prairie. However, just outside of Didsbury, dumbassery struck. A truck tried to beat this train to a crossing, too impatient to wait for a single car train to pass. The stainless steel cruise missile slammed into the truck so hard that a wheel broke off of one of the axles of the truck, sending it merrily bouncing away along the adjacent Highway 2A. Shockingly, Johnson found that nobody was injured, and Tomling determined that the RDC was still capable of finishing the journey. After a brief cleanup and giving their statements to the responding officers from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Train 194 continued south. It was not far behind schedule, and Tomling was ready to get to Calgary, book off, and go home. There was time to be made up, and the rapid acceleration of the RDC was going to come to the aid of everyone on this train.
Now it really needs to go to the shops.
I'm not even sure. From what I saw in another report, it was cosmetic damage only.
I'm sure there's a line item somewhere that says you need to, like, have it looked over. At the very least.
Yeah, this was after safety was invented, so probably.
It's like, I know nothing looks broken, but just put it through. We'll put it on the pit. We'll just take a look underneath. You know, it's probably
maybe replace an air hose or two.
It's probably fine. I also, just imagine just getting hit by one of these things. That must just be like so. Nobody was injured, but the wheel flew off.
Yeah. That had to be such a perfect hit to launch a wheel off of a pickup truck.
It turns out your pickup truck was made of so much rust that it just took the bed clean off without, and the forward half just kept on going. Like a red-green gag.
Oh man. Okay, no, the red-green gag is how they fix that after it's been hit by the train.
Just duct tape sounds. Oh, boy.
How many rolls of duct tape would that take?
Yes. They'd need an RDC-2 to deliver all of it. Let's put it that way.
Well, the good thing is, if you get hit by a Dayliner, you can order the parts and have them shipped in on the Dayliner the next day.
You've got such a good impersonation. That's fantastic.
I grew up watching way too much Red Green. I didn't get half of it until I was a little older, and I decided to go back and watch them again, and then I enjoyed it even more.
Oh, fantastic. Anyways, so now we have...
Now we get to mention a time.
Oh, boy. Do we go to the next slide?
Not yet.
Oh, boy.
Not yet. At 11:20 a.m., with only 31 miles left to Calgary, shortly after passing through the city of Carstairs, train 194 rounded a slight curve and entered an area known on the railroad timetable known as Wessex. There was a siding here, and Tomling realized too late that the north switch at Wessex that he was rapidly approaching was lined into the siding. As the car slammed through the switch, passengers were thrown from their seats. Engineer Tomling was also thrown from his seat as well, an event that should have triggered the brakes to set, since Tomling's foot wasn't on the dead man's pedal any longer. However, because the dead man was defective, the car continued to speed down the siding and slammed into a pair of empty sulfur tank cars sitting at the south end of the siding.
Yeah,
and then that was pushed.
A fertilizer plant, I believe.
Yes. And that was pushed even further into a separate cut of empty tank cars that were sitting further down in the siding. By the time everything was said and done, the RDC had decelerated from roughly 70 mile an hour to 0 in about 300 feet. Next slide, please.
Yeah, that seems really violent. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's because it is.
Oh, wow. I'm so glad we actually have... What newspaper did you get this from? This is a really good article. Like, really good diagram.
Oh. Let me see. I think I should have written this in the notes.
It says Calgary Herald down there.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Calgary... Yeah, okay.
The March 24th edition of the Calgary Herald.
They did this in a day?
In a day.
Oh,
newspapers used to be... journalism used to be a real business, okay?
We fucked up when we got rid of print media. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, they got the vents on the roof. Did they just have, like, a drawing to hand?
Somebody... Nick Pierce had way too much time on his hands, or was really talented, or both.
Or they had like an entire graphics department. I'm jealous. Oh my God.
It was actually the newspaper in the 1980s probably had a whole graphics department. Just waiting for situations like this.
I'm so mad.
This is what they took from us.
Yeah, really.
Now, the moments following the impact were chaotic. Passengers and baggage were strewn about the car. A couple of passengers were called, hearing conductor Johnson calling out, "Stewie, Stewie," as he tried to work his way up to the front, where his friend and neighbor was already dead, smashed upon impact. Johnson himself was struggling. One of his legs was broken. He passed his handheld radio to passenger Paul McGee, who tried to step out and contact anyone, but the antenna had broken off of the radio in the crash. Someone else got Johnson's keys to unlock a line side phone, but the line was dead. A third passenger managed to flag down a truck that was passing by on Highway 2A, who drove to the nearest town and called for help. I believe they went north to Carstairs because it was relatively soon after that the notification came into emergency services. Let's go to the next slide.
Oh, yep.
Now, Paul McGee, the fellow who had gotten the radio, was a rail fan. He was loosely familiar with railroad operations. The thought occurred to him as he stepped off with the radio to look back at the switch at the south end of the Wessex siding. It was aligned and locked in the reverse position instead of the normal position for main track use. In spite of his poor vision due to his glasses being broken in the collision, Paul could make out 3 lights in a triangular formation coming down the main from the north. Was this another train? Paul began walking down the tracks, giving a hand signal called a washout, which is used by railroaders to tell an engineer to stop.
Is it just waving your hands over your head?
It is actually waving your hands from a horizontal position out by your side, down, and crossing them in front of your torso and back up again. So you end up making like a big X. You start with your arms spread out, swing them down in an arc until you're making an X with both arms, and then swing them back out again and repeat until the message is acknowledged.
Okay.
That's how you make a big like emergency stop signal.
Yeah.
Now, shortly after this, a small burrow crane, like the one we see in the picture here, rolled up to him. This maintenance of way crew had been doing track work just north of Wessex and had actually been passed by the ill-fated train 194 shortly before the collision. The work crew's foreman poked his head out and assessed the carnage. "Oh no," he said. "Oh no," he shouted. The burrow had been stored overnight in the siding at Wessex, and when they entered the main that morning, the foreman had forgotten to line the switch back to the normal position for main track use. The grief and the guilt overwhelmed the foreman, who was eventually carted off in a straitjacket. Now, the work gang that had been using the burrow crane had also been traveling on it, and they immediately sprang into action using any tools available. Regardless, the twisted metal and crumpled stainless steel proved to be too much for the equipment on scene, rendering them about as useless as the bare hands that had already been struggling. Crowbars, normally used to place ties and rails, and jacks only rated for a few tons, could not begin to untangle the knots to free the passengers still trapped inside. The most they could do is try to comfort the trapped and the wounded. Passengers who were mobile began pulling clothes out of suitcases. By tearing the fabric into strips, makeshift bandages and tourniquets could help to slow or stop the bleeding of the more grievously wounded. In a fantastic show of selflessness and courage, every person who was able to almost immediately sprang into action and was trying to help out in one way or another. Let's go to the next slide.
You're so much better at this than I am. What the fuck do I need to be here for?
You're the everyman in this one. You ask questions.
Yeah, why am I here? Just you keep talking. What the fuck?
Now, the first ambulance didn't arrive until 23 minutes after the wreck. Firefighters and paramedics responded from 3 towns: Carstairs, Didsbury, and Airdrie. They all had their hands full attending to injured or trapped survivors. Broken radio communications delayed responses and made decision-making difficult for the crews on site. One ambulance crew noted that they needed permission to perform a certain action we're going to talk about here in a moment, needed permission from a doctor to do that, couldn't receive it on the radio, and had to give the request to a fire truck, who then had to drive north, get in radio range of a doctor, relay the question, get the answer, and then drive back to the site to relay the answer to the ambulance crew. This group was actually working on a man whose leg was pinned in the wreckage. They worked for almost 2 hours to extricate him. They even went so far as to get permission to amputate this man's leg. Although by the time they received permission, because it was so delayed by the lack of communication availability, this man died from blood loss, just right there on the site. Now, I don't have a map for this one, but about 8 miles to the south, the station agent at a town called Crossfield was growing concerned. He knew that train 194 was slightly delayed by the grade crossing collision, but it was significantly late at this point. A CP rail freight train was sitting in the siding at Crossfield, waiting for the southbound 194 to pass so that they could go north. A crew member on this train, known to us only as Gord, remembered hearing the Crossfield station agent attempting to hail train 194 on the radio. After several attempts, the agent got curious, hopped in his car, and drove north. He found the wreckage at Wessex and began notifying CP rail officials. This was the first notification to the railroads that something had happened, and this was after first responders had been there for a little bit. Communications were severely delayed in this incident.
God.
A few hours later, the scene had calmed down a bit. All of the injured had been treated on scene or transported to local hospitals. At this point, the tank car was still firmly telescoped into the Dayliner. The bodies of Stewie Tomling and another woman could not be removed as things sat. Down in Crossfield, Gord and his crew received new orders: secure your train, cut your locomotives off, and run light power to Wessex. They were tasked with the gruesome duty of pulling the RDC off of the tank car so that rescuers could finish the extractions. Gord noticed that the heavy fog of this spring morning reduced visibility so much that there was no way Tomling would have seen the switch in time to slow down. When he climbed into the rear of the ill-fated Dayliner, he said that it, quote, reeked of death. There was a good reason for this. The final toll was 5 dead and 10 hospitalized, including the maintenance of way foreman.
How many people
Next slide,
were on the
please.
train in total?
what was it? 10, 15, 14 total, 13 passengers. It was an extremely light day, thankfully.
14 and then 13 passenger, but there's 2 crew. So
13.
Would that
No,
be 15?
it would be. It's 5 dead, 10 hospitalized. The maintenance away foreman was one of the hospitalized. So that's 9 on the train, plus the 5 dead who are all on the train. So that's 14.
So that's 14. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
13 passengers, 12 passengers, 2 crew members, and the maintenance away foreman.
Okay. So, where did you get this one from? Because it says Appendix 12. Is that from another?
That one, let me see. Oh, where did it come from? What's the file name on that one? Not helpful. I don't know.
Cool. Anyways, going on to the next one. Yeah.
I actually, no, you know what? I remember where that one came from. That was from a special bulletin of, I want to say like an RDC Historical Society.
Well, no, I thought it was.
Did a special.
Well, wasn't one of the people got injured? Like the guy who flagged down the burrow crane, wasn't he like, didn't he become the treasurer or something of Historical Society in Edmonton? For Railroad Historical Society?
I don't remember his position, but that same Historical Society published a special on Canadian RDCs, and these photos were, or the photos from the last slide were in that special publication.
Okay, hold on. You keep talking. Let me Google this. Paul McGee. Paul McGee was the editor of the Alberta Pioneer Railway Association, which became another association. It's now the Alberta Railway Museum.
Yes.
That's why this is documented at all.
Yeah. It's pretty much, apart from contemporary newspaper articles, Paul McGee is the reason that there's anything modern about this out there.
Yes. So kudos to you, Paul.
Yeah, no kidding. Congrats on being present enough to flag down the burrow crane and try to use the radio even if it didn't work, and then documenting all of this later.
Mm-hmm.
So now we see here the RDC number 6146 and the first empty sulfur tank car that the RDC struck loaded up onto flag cars.
Yeah. The tanker is NATX 1375 something.
I think it's 757.
Yeah, 137557. It's a DOT 111. Those things are fucking ancient.
Yes, it's 1983. They were still relatively young at this point.
Well, no, I meant the concept of the DOT 111 because those were, until Loch McGontick, basically.
Yeah.
Which I'd love to do an episode on Loch McGontick.
Oh my God.
That's been done to death, though. But
I know. I've thought about that one too.
But
well,
yeah.
That afternoon, after the freight train had used its locomotive to separate the RDC and the tank car, and the last couple of bodies had been removed, both of these cars were loaded up onto flat cars because neither one was fit to roll upon its own wheels. And just like that, things went kind of back to normal. From most of what I can tell, at the very latest, regular passenger rail service continued on that line the next morning. I found one reference that it may have continued with the last train or two of the day, that same day.
God, they cleaned up quick, but it wasn't on the main. There wasn't like any track damage.
It was probably one of those situations where they just had flaggers a little ways out on either end of the scene. And when a train was getting close, they would blow an air horn and notify everybody that was working on loading up these this equipment onto flat cars to clear the main and let whatever train it was come by.
And have the porters in the locomotive hauled train go through the coaches and pull the blinds down.
Oh my God, I could only hope.
But,
so,
yeah.
What can we boil this down to? In order to find the root causes of this tragedy, it ultimately comes down to two things: human negligence and corporate greed. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I'm not sure exactly when it happened, but sometime around the middle of the 20th century, all of the railroads in Canada developed and adopted the Canadian Uniform Code of Operating Rules. This was eventually replaced by the Canadian Railroad Operating Rules, or CROR, in 1990, which is what they use today. Both publications aimed for the same thing: a consistent standard of rules, operating practices, signaling, and train control across the entire country. This page from the Uniform Code of Operating Rules has two noteworthy entries under rule number 104, hand-operated switches. Note number 1 here says, main track switches must be lined and locked for main track use when not in use. Note number 2 says, a main track switch must be left open unless in charge of a member must not be left open unless in charge of a member of a crew or a switch tender. So what this boils down to is you cannot leave a main track switch lined for anything but the reverse position and walk away from it.
Why is it called the reverse position as opposed to the main position? Because you said that earlier, and I was like, what the fuck is he talking about?
I'm not sure of the etymology of it, but switches have two positions, normal or reverse. And in some cases, it almost seems arbitrary as to which one is normal and which one is reverse. It's a very situational thing, but on a main track switch, the normal position is 999 times out of 1,000 going to be the position that lines the switch for train movement to continue on the main, and reverses off to wherever the switch goes to in the opposite direction. I don't know how those terms were decided upon, though.
So it needs to be lined not reverse, it needs to be lined main all the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Or if you... in another weird bit of etymology that I don't know, a main track switch can also be referred to as closed if it's lined for the main, or open if it's lined for anything besides the main track, which is why the second note there shows a main track switch must not be left open.
Okay. I think I get it now.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the terminology, but it's one of those things on the railroad that was adopted about 10 bajillion years ago and hasn't really had a reason to change, so the terminology has never changed. Yeah. I will say I hear a lot less open and closed. It's normal or reverse today.
Okay.
But in the 60s, when this rule book was published, they still used open and closed. Now, at this time, the Canadian Pacific, CP Rail main line between Red Deer and Calgary was operated on train orders. From Red Deer north to South Edmonton, it was operated on automatic block system, which we'll touch on some more here in just a little bit. But we've touched on train orders before, I believe starting in episode 5 on the Texas Electric. So the quick refresher on this is that there are no signals if there are train orders, and train traffic is controlled via pieces of paper with instructions such as proceed to X station and wait for further orders, or proceed to Y siding and clear main track to meet other train. This system kind of works, but it leaves a lot of room for error. The maintenance of way crew on that burro crane likely had started their day in Wessex Siding and then received a train order instructing them to proceed north and clear the main track at a location that is unknown to me for a meet with train number 194, the Dayliner. We know this for a fact because there was testimony that they had actually talked to either engineer Tomling or conductor Johnson on the radio to confirm that this crew was off the main into clear, and the switch at whatever siding they were in at that time was lined for the main track. And train 194 passed by them at this location completely uneventfully. But as Tomling soon discovered, things did not go so perfectly at Wessex. The foreman lined the switch at the north end of the Wessex siding to let the burrow out of the siding and onto the main, and then he just forgot to line it back for the main. There were no safeguards in place, no checks and balances of any kind, just a trust that had to be placed upon your fellow humans. And humans make mistakes.
Yeah, we hadn't invented the point and speak method yet. That now is, I think, getting increasingly common all over the place.
I have started using it a lot in my own personal professional experience, and it's been incredibly helpful. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to see a signal, and we'll touch on that here in just a second. But I want to touch on greed first. As far back as 1976, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers had been asking for what is called an automatic block system, or ABS, to be installed on the 89-mile, 143-kilometer section of single-track main line between Red Deer and Calgary. The union recognized the need for these safety devices, even on a single-track main, and how they could have prevented accidents exactly like this one. As a quick recap, ABS is the simplest of signal systems that checks for occupancy in the spaces between signals. If there is nothing in the block ahead, an engineer on a train approaching an ABS signal would see a green like this, and that means it is clear, he can proceed. Can you go to the next slide, please? There's a lot of blank space in here because there's many different types of signaling systems that could show different aspects to show the same thing, but I blanked out what's not relevant to this situation. If a train approaches an occupied block, it will encounter a single yellow signal like this, indicating that the engineer should slow down and proceed at restricted speed, prepared to stop short of the next signal. Next slide, please. The next signal would be red to indicate that further passage is dangerous. Block occupancy can be triggered either by a train or a switch not lined for the main. There is something ahead that is going to make it dangerous for you to proceed at maximum authorized speed. If automatic block signaling was in place, Stuart Tomling would have, at best, have been able to proceed past the red signal at restricted speed and would have been required by rule to be able to stop within half the range of his vision. He would have seen the bad switch and would have been able to stop with plenty of time, even with the thick fog. Now, CP Rail felt differently about this necessity. The Red Deer to Calgary route had been run without any signals for the better part of a century, and why should that change now? In January of 1982, the union's national director, Jack Davies, penned a letter to CP Rail asking them again to install ABS on this specific stretch of track. After 2 months, he received a reply from the railroad. They told Davies and the men and women whose lives were on the line that while setting up these signals would be, quote unquote, desirable, there simply wasn't money in the budget for it, and that money would have to be used for other unnamed yet higher priority projects. I really hope that whoever made this call lost sleep over it.
They didn't, and I have no doubt that whatever the other money was, the money was spent building the never completed rail line to I Don't Wannaville.
Yeah, Probably. They never specified what the money was better used for. So we'll never know what was more important than putting up signals in dark territory.
Hookers.
Let's go to that next slide.
It was French-speaking hookers.
No, that was over in Quebec.
It was CP Rail International Network.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if they divvied up into sections throughout the different provinces. So maybe it was. Maybe all the money went there.
Yep.
So
Next slide.
if it was already known that block signaling or its more advanced counterpart, centralized train control, would make operations safer, what did we learn?
Nothing.
Next slide, please. Well, 3 years later, we learned that if you put Canada's unhealthiest man, trademark, in the seat of a freight train, he's probably not going to care about a red signal because he is presumably dead. They were using centralized train control, which is extremely similar to automatic block signaling in the Hinton Rail collision. But it's still better than doing nothing at all. While doing research for this episode, I thank you again, DJ and Ray, for enabling me to find this. I found an interesting little tidbit. Do you see that line down on the right side of the page that says survivors warned of lengthy lawsuits?
Yes.
That is a focus on a specific woman named Celia Jeffrey, who was a woman from Red Deer who lost both her husband, Wilfred, and her stepson, Stephen, in the Dayliner collision. She did sue CP Rail for negligence and eventually settled out of court in January 1986 for an undisclosed sum. However, when the Hinton Rail collision happened in February of 1986, Celia stepped up to the plate and began loudly advocating for families of those who died upon Via Rail's Supercontinental.
Via Rail's.
Via Rail. I don't know why I have such a problem with that.
Why did she sue Canadian National?
She sued CP Rail.
No, it says here she launched a lawsuit against CP Rail, Via Rail, the CNR, and 10 workers.
I actually could not find... Oh, I forgot about that one. Yeah. I could not find any other reference to CNR, so then there's a couple of articles talking about her lawsuit. I'm pretty sure they included CNR by mistake when writing this article.
Either that or there's some weird Canadian National connection that we don't know about.
Which that wasn't documented.
We'll get to in a couple of slides.
Yeah. Now, Celia was advising the families of those who deceased on the Supercontinental that the lawsuit process was going to be lengthy. It would continue to bring up grief and anguish at every step of the process, and what they needed to know, who they needed to talk to, and what to expect along every step of the way. This firsthand knowledge surely helped families cope and process their losses and the subsequent lawsuit, and I think is a great example of helping your neighbors in times of need. But beyond that, not much changed for decades. Outside of the Northeast Corridor in the US, there was no method of enforcing signal indications in North America until Positive Train Control, or PTC, was required to be fully active in the United States in December of 2020. Even getting that required legal intervention because capitalism will inherently avoid safety measures unless required to use them. And the 2008 collision between a Union Pacific local freight and a Metrolink commuter train in Chatsworth, California, was what it took to push safety through legislature in the U.S.
Which we should cover the Chatsworth collision at some point.
Absolutely. Now, Canada recognized the need for something similar and passed a legal requirement to deploy their own system called Enhanced Train Control, or ETC, with the review and amendment of the Railway Safety Act in 2018. As of today, 43 years after the topic of today's episode, Canada does not have an enforcement system in place for trains, and the current estimate is that it will probably be fully functional by 2030.
Yeah.
And it has been pushed back at least once that I could find because it is expensive.
Of course, it costs money.
It is tragic and disgusting. We can do better for future generations, and we owe it to them to not put them through similar traumas time and time again if the only cost is reduced dividends to the shareholders.
Yeah.
And that is the 1983 Carstairs collision.
Yeah.
Let's
shit's fucked.
It was ugly, and we didn't learn anything from it for a long time. Now let's pull the curtain back a little bit and let's talk about what it took to find any information about this episode, Joe.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Okay.
How was your experience?
Oh boy. So, okay. So this man is how I'm feeling most of the time. So the National Transportation Safety Board in the United States is a fucking miracle. Basically, there is every single accident report for any single accident that they covered, whether it be an automotive, pipeline, marine, aircraft, rail, anything they've ever covered is fully available to read online in either their own database, or if for some reason their database doesn't have it because it's old, a university library or an accident, source site will have it somewhere. Okay, this is just how it is. And even stuff, especially for things like accident reports that happened in aviation before there was an NTSB, those are actually compiled in a lot of places. Most notably, Embry-Riddle Aviation University's library has them all easily accessible online that you can just read at any point. Nowadays, if you have an accident on a railroad or in a transportation accident that is worthy of a report in places like Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, any place like that, I'm sure it does in other countries, but I speak English only, so it's really hard to learn about non-English speaking disasters. It's also published on the website of the relevant accident investigation board. The problem is that most of these only started being a thing in the 1990s or later, because most of these other English-speaking countries were British or operate under a British style, investigation system where there wasn't an accident investigation board. If an accident was bad enough that required investigation, there was an inquiry. They literally convened a board of people, both usually under the auspices of the courts, that would then come together, investigate just this accident, and issue a final report, and then fuck off to whatever they were doing before. So there was no formalized body for this, or there were like a weird succession of formalized bodies, like in the UK, how it went from rail accidents, just as their own thing, went from individual inquiries to the health and safety executive to another rail accident board in the early 2000s that we briefly mentioned during the Tangmere incident with Gareth. And then now it's the RAIB. So if you want to find anything earlier than that, you really do have to search up the individual inquiry reports, which is great in countries like England, where there's an entire industry of weaponized autism that basically means that every single incident ever on the railroads has been investigated to death, and it's known, and there's reports on it. It might not be a big report, but there's usually a report. The problem is that as you get into countries with a smaller population and maybe not nearly as much autism as England, you start to run into problems like this. So up here, I have this is some sort of website that lets you look at WorldCat listings, which is basically WorldCat is sort of an interlibrary loan system. The report for this accident, because this would have been much easier if the accident report didn't exist, because we just wouldn't have covered it. But the accident report for this crash, there was a board convened. They did an investigation. It is 36 pages long, and it has never been digitized. in history. It exists nowhere. It exists nowhere online, and it is apparently only available in 2 locations. The National Archives of Canada, which is in Ottawa, which I felt might be a little bit more difficult to go through because it does seem to say that it's like not available to be ordered for whatever reason, and the Law Library of the University of Manitoba, which is not where the accident happened, but according to a friend of ours, Nick, apparently they have a very well-versed law library. So that covers stuff like this. I don't know why. So anyways, that was like over a month ago. We started trying to get this. Guest host Allie went to her alumni library, the University of Waterloo, to see if she could get it sent to Canada, because I had emailed the University of Manitoba and was told that it would be very difficult because I'm an American citizen and not associated with a college, because I graduated almost 10 years ago. And so Allie tried, got nowhere. I tried. I actually went to my local library. Big shout out to those guys who put in some form of request, because the request system is very weird with this. They are still trying to this day.
Complicated, to say the least.
They're still trying. My local library. A friend of ours, Ross, who is still in school because he's getting a PhD, put in a request through his university in Indiana, which he might get something. And then Nick,
eventually,
who we just talked about, Nick, his father lives in Manitoba and actually lives near where the University of Manitoba is, so he might be able to go in person. The problem is that we've been trying for a month and we haven't uploaded anything in a while, so we kind of had to balance whether or not we could actually upload this now. So if we get the report, we will let you guys know if there's anything different than what we found. I'm also going to make sure that it's online somewhere, just so that this doesn't happen again in the future for anyone trying to look.
Yeah, no kidding.
And also, I want to thank the University of Manitoba for being so patient with me, but your system sucks. Like, we got to the point where there's like a form, like you have to, okay, basically my library got told you have to fill out a form and do this, right? The thing is that we got to the guy from the library emailed me back and was like, look, we're having an issue because you go to the link they sent him, and it tells you need a login. Which is very helpful, because we don't have a login because it's a student login for the University of Manitoba.
Oh.
But anyways, I tried on my phone, and this is clearly some sort of technical error on my side, but this is what it feels like. So just watch this. There's no sound. So there's the login page. Contact document delivery. Open.
Oh yeah, email, Gmail, Outlook, PayPal's kind of odd. What's
Burger King?
You gonna contact them through Burger King?
I tried. I got lunch instead. I got a flame grilled hamburger delivered to my mouth. It was not what I wanted, but no, I tried contacting them through Burger King. But we're trying still. This is just really difficult and annoying.
I feel like that's enough for you to walk into your local Burger King and say, hey, can you get this report for me, please?
Then
explain, well, you see, one of the ways I can log in is through the Burger King app, but there seems to be a glitch. I can't quite do that, so I figured maybe y'all could, right?
I would not want to test the intelligence of my local Burger King employees by
ouch, damn, dude.
Oh, they don't listen to this. They just, but
ouch.
Look, I appreciate all the work that everyone's gone through. I know that the guy at my local library and maybe one of the people at University of Manitoba who I was emailing have expressed interest in listening to this. So thank you very much for trying. I'm sorry we didn't get to do this. We will keep it updated if there's ever a point in which we need to do this, but we will keep you guys updated. But I'm just like, it's so fucking difficult. It's unnecessarily difficult.
It really is.
Because there should just be a
really
government
is.
resource for this. Like, and this isn't the first time either. Like, for those of you who are into roller coasters or the West Edmonton Mall, you'll know that there's a big roller coaster in the West Edmonton Mall called the Mindbender, or there was. Got taken out a couple years ago. That roller coaster famously had an accident, like in 1980 something, that and it killed like 3 people. It was terrible. That investigation report does not exist online. But do you know what? About 5 years ago, because I was bored and I had gotten recommended by the algorithm, a guy who's really into the West Edmonton Mall, I emailed the Provincial Archives of Alberta and got the report printed off and scanned and mailed to me.
Oh my God.
So I have that report. And the guy from the West Edmonton Mall channel has never done a single goddamn thing with it. So at some point we will be covering a roller coaster disaster, because I have literally no one else has this report.
That would make it worthwhile.
Nobody else
only
does.
ones.
Yeah, no, I have it. You have the PDF, Zach. It's in our spreadsheet.
Yeah, I've seen it in there.
But yeah, no,
I'm agreeing. It seems worthwhile if we could push our scope a little bit to do something that literally nobody else is covering.
Yeah. So I think maybe one other person got sent it by the guy I sent it to, but there's never been a video on it. At least not one worth watching, if there has been at all. I don't know. If it has someone actually used this thing for good, let me know. I don't think there has been. So we'll have to cover it. We'll have to cover the investigation into the Mindbender crash. But
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's a big fucking thing too. Like one of the things is actually like it's a giant folded up document, like with blueprints and everything. That's like they had to have gotten the special printer out.
Well, okay. Yeah. Bring it on.
But yeah, so stay tuned. It probably won't be the next episode, but maybe at some point when we're bored.
Yeah. Hey, if nothing else, take away from this that we need some more transparency. We need to publish these findings and these investigations for everybody to see, so that we can hopefully stop repeating the same mistakes over and over and over again.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the podcast basically.
That's it.
There's one more slide, right?
There is one more.
Yep.
Did you almost die?
Yep. Did you almost die? We continue to seek your stories as to did you almost die on your way to work? Any accident that occurred to you or someone you did know on public transit, please reach out to us at SYDDOYWTW@gmail.com or through Zach's Ouija board, only on weekends because he got a new clipboard. We also accept submissions in person if you happen to know us, or through our personal Instagrams, our Blue Sky, because Zach has a Blue Sky now. I don't. And any other form in which you can find us.
I would say if you're going to submit it, try to keep it. I'm going to put the same rule that There's Your Problem does on there. Try to keep it down to about a page, so we don't basically start a whole new podcast for your submission. Unless you have something really good, in which case we might just make a whole new episode for that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, did you live through an accident that has a Wikipedia page? We want to hear about it.
Or should have a Wikipedia page. I'll even give you that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we don't have did you actually die? Again, that's a little bit of a harder thing, but again, Zach's Ouija board. If somebody else died, provided it's not too difficult for you, please tell us. That sort of thing. We accept many different forms. It just has to be interesting. It can't be that someone peed on you on the bus.
It can't be that somebody threw up, because somebody throws up on public transit every day. That's not special. There's 100 reasons why it could happen.
Yeah, just it's got to be something that wasn't supposed to happen for like big reasons. If, I'll go on. If you would like to leak information to us like they do at WTYP, we will also accept that. We will anonymize you.
Oh my God. I'm not going to say any spoilers, but we did recently learn that Well There's Your Problem has a massive safety third coming up that is likely a leak of some kind of classified information, and I am stoked for that. If you have stuff that your transit agency doesn't want getting out to the public, I want to hear that.
Yeah, or your airline, or your anything, your boat, something.
Do you haul passengers? Did they fuck up and they don't want anybody to know about it? Please email us, SYDDOYWTW@gmail.com.
Yep. And please let us know. And yeah,
I think that's all I got.
Yeah, that's
Thank you all for coming today.
Yeah.
I had fun with this one, even with the shocking lack of information on it.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you did this because this was very good. I liked this one as a viewer.
Why, thank you.
I was sitting there going like, God damn it. I don't want to write a script. Fuck. Why does he have to be so good with this? Fuck. I was sitting there going like,
raising the bar.
I was sitting there going like, God damn it, this is really fucking good. I don't fucking work like this. This is not how I plan on doing this. Fuck. Shit. God damn it.
It's just two different styles.
I know.
We'll just make it obvious about who wrote each episode.
But anyways, yeah, that's it for this episode. Have a good one, everyone. Stay safe.
Stay safe, keep riding public transit, and keep fighting for better services everywhere you go.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.